Tonight, we travel to 1920s Cleveland, where Garrett Morgan, a hardworking inventor, created a device to bring order to busy streets. As you get cozy under your blankets, let this gentle tale, told like a soft bedtime story, guide you to rest. We'd love for you to join our community. Please subscribe to our channel to hear more relaxing histories. If this story soothes you, give the video a like and drop a comment below, like leaving a note on a town bulletin board. Your support keeps our stories alive, like lights in a quiet village. Imagine old streets with clattering carts and humming cars as we begin this tale of a clever invention designed to ease you into sleep. Let the steady rhythm of our words, like a slow-turning wheel, carry you into peaceful dreams. The awakening of the urban realm low in the vast kingdom known as America. During the epoch of the 1900s and 20s, the cities stirred as if roused from a long slumber by some unseen enchantress. Picture, if thou wilt, the grand citadel of Cleveland, nestled upon the shores of the great Lake Erie, where waters lapped eternally against the docks like the sighs of weary travelers. The air was thick with the scents of coal smoke and fresh-baked bread from humble ovens, mingling with the earthy aroma of horses' hooves upon cobblestone streets. Folk arose at the first blush of dawn, their garments simple yet sturdy, men in woolen trousers, and caps women in mother's dresses adorned with aprons for. This was an age when the sun dictated the labors of the day, much as it had in the feudal times of old when serfs tilled the soil under the watchful eyes of lords. The streets, those winding arteries of stone and brick, began to pulse with life. Carts creaked under loads of timber and grain, drawn by steadfast steeds whose breaths formed misty clouds in the chill morning air. Pedestrians, numbering in the thousands, shuffled forth to their daily quests. Bakers kneading dough in dimly lit shops, blacksmiths hammering at forges that echoed like distant thunder, and merchants unfurling awnings over stalls brimming with apples, bolts of cloth, and iron tools. Yet, amid this timeless routine, a new force emerged, subtle at first, like the creeping vines upon an ancient castle wall. The automobile, that mechanical beast of iron and steam, no, of gasoline and gears, had begun its inexorable advance. In the year of our tale's beginning, around 19, there roamed but 6.5 million such contraptions across the land, their engines puttering like contented dragons. By the close of the decade, their numbers swelled to over 320 million, a horde that transformed the quiet lanes into bustling thoroughfares. Imagine, gentle hearer, the slow awakening of one such street in Cleveland's heart. The sun, peeking over rooftops tiled in slate, cast long shadows upon the pavement, where puddles from last night's rain reflected the sky like forgotten mirrors. A milkman, his wagon laden with glass bottles that clinked softly with each step of his horse, made his rounds, pausing at doorsteps to exchange greetings in hushed tones. "Good morrow, mistress," he might say, tipping his hat, while children, rubbing sleep from their eyes, scampered out to fetch the deliveries. Nearby, a newsboy cried the headlines from the Cleveland Call, a parchment of tidings founded by our artisan hero himself, though his name was yet to be whispered in these early mists. The air filled with the aroma of coffee brewing in tenement kitchens, where families gathered around wooden tables, sharing loaves and tailies of the previous day's labors. As the morning progressed without hurry, the first automobiles appeared, their horns bleating like sheep in a flock. These were no swift chargers of legend, but ponderous machines, chugging along at speeds scarcely faster than a brisk walk. Drivers, clad in goggles and dusters to ward off the grime of unpaved roads, navigated with care, for the paths were shared with horse-drawn carriages, streetcars rumbling on iron rails, and bicyclists weaving through the throng. Congestion, that subtle plague, began to manifest not in roaring chaos, but in the gentle knotting of paths at crossroads. Here, a wagon paused to unload crates of vegetables. There a streetcar halted to let passengers alight, their footsteps pattering like rain upon leaves. Pedestrians crossed without fear, for the pace was measured, allowing time for nods and waves among neighbors. Yet beneath this serene facade, the urban realm quickened. Factories whistled the call to work, summoning laborers from crowded dwellings where multiple families shared hearths. The Great Migration, that vast exodus from southern fields to northern forges, brought souls like our artisans' kin, seeking fortune in the smoke-belching mills. Cleveland, with its steel giants and garment workshops, swelled with dreamers, their accents a tapestry of tongues from distant shires. The streets, once mere footpaths, now bore the weight of progress. Electric lamps flickered to life as dusk approached, banishing the gloom like spells from a wizard's tome. But with light came the shadow of increasing haste, where horse and machine vied for space, leading to occasional tangles resolved with apologies and handshakes. In this awakening, we glimpsed the seeds of our tale, the cities, like medieval fiefdoms, expanding beyond their walls, grappled with growth. Traffic, that flow of life, moved in rhythms akin to the tides, ebbing at night when lanterns dimmed and folk retired to straw mattresses or feather beds, depending on their station. Mornings brought renewal, with the milkman's clink, the newsboy's cry, and the first putter of engines heralding the day's unremarkable yet essential labors. And so, as the sun climbed higher, casting warmth upon the realm, the urban heartbeat steadied, unaware of the quiet observer who would one day tame its chaos. For in these streets walked Garrett Morgan, a man of humble origins, whose eyes beheld the slow dance of progress and pondered ways to guide it with gentle hand. Thus ends the first whisper of our chronicle, fading into the next as seamlessly as dawn into day. Whispers of chaos in the stone pathways, and lo, as the urban realm fully awoke, the stone pathways, those eternal veins, etched into the earth. S bosom began to murmur with the whispers of impending chaos. In the grand tapestry of 1920s America, where the roar of industry echoed like the bellows of mythical forges, the streets of Cleveland and her sister cities bore witness to a transformation most gradual. The paths, paved with bricks, fired in kilns reminiscent of alchemists' ovens, stretched out like the arms of a great tree, branching into alleys and boulevards where life unfolded in measured steps. Horses, those noble beasts of burden from ages past, clopped along with wagons in tow, their loads of coal and flour shifting softly with each uneven cobble. The air carried the scent of manure and machine oil, a peculiar blend that spoke of old ways mingling with the new. Much as in medieval times when plowshares gave way to swords, in times of strife, consider, if thou art inclined to ponder, the daily rhythm of these pathways. At the hour when the cock crowed though in the city, such birds were scarce. Replaced by factory horns, the folk emerged from their abodes. Tenements rose like castle towers, their windows flickering with the light of kerosene lamps. For electricity was a luxury not yet universal. Families, huddled in rooms shared by generations, broke fast with porridge or bread, discussing the weather or the price of goods in voices low and steady. Children, clad in patched knickers and pinafores, scampered to schools where slates and chalk awaited, their laughter a fleeting melody amid the growing hum. Laborers, with lunch pails, swinging, trudged to mills where steel was hammered and fabrics woven, their boots leaving imprints in the dust that settled like dew. But hark, the automobiles multiplied, their numbers swelling like a river after spring rains. From 6.5 million in 1919 to over 320 million by 19. These iron chariots claimed the paths, their engines coughing plumes of smoke that hung in the air like dragon's breath. Drivers, often merchants, or the newly prosperous, gripped wooden steering wheels, navigating with caution. Four brakes were rudimentary and roads unpaved in many quarters. Streetcars, those lumbering behemoths on rails, clanged bells to part the crowds, carrying workers from suburbs to city hearts. Pedestrians, the humblest of travelers, darted between, their errands simple: a loaf from the baker, thread from the haberdasher, or a letter posted at the corner box. Whispers of chaos arose not from sudden storms, but from the slow accumulation of movement. At crossroads, where paths intersected like the spokes of a cartwheel, tangles formed. A horse might shy at a backfiring engine, causing a wagon to halt abruptly, while an automobile idled behind, its driver honking in mild frustration. Street vendors, hawking fruits from baskets, added to the mix, their cries blending with the putter of motors and the clip-clop of hooves. Congestion built like clouds before rain, not in frenzy but in the patient stacking of delays. In downtown Cleveland, where buildings loomed like baronial halls, the noon hour saw peaks of activity. Office clerks spilling from doors, seeking lunches of sandwiches wrapped in paper, crossing without heed as vehicles paused courteously. The Ara's spirit, that of the roaring 20s, infused these whispers with a subtle energy. Jazz notes drifted from speakeasies, hidden in basements, prohibition's forbidden fruits, adding a layer of secrecy to evening strolls. Yet, for most, life remained unadorned. Grocery lists scrawled on scraps, laundry hung on lines between buildings, and evenings by the radio, listening to broadcasts that crackled like hearth fires. Racial divides, like invisible moats around fiefdoms, shaped the paths African American communities, bolstered by the Great Migration, clustered on the east side. Their streets alive with churches and newspapers like the Cleveland Call, founded two-voice truths, often silenced. Amid these murmurs, accidents whispered their warnings, not the cataclysms of legend, but minor collisions of fender bent a wheel askew stemming from the lack of order. Early signals, mere stop-and-go. Lanterns from the 19th offered scant guidance, much like rudimentary beacons in ancient harbors. The paths, though stone-laid, bore ruts from constant use, and rain turned them slick, amplifying the gentle disorder. Folk adapted with patience, yielding as nights might in tourney. But the need for a better warden grew, unspoken yet felt in every delayed journey. Thus, the stone pathways, etched with the footprints of countless souls, carried on their eternal duty, whispering of chaos yet holding the realm in fragile balance. As the sun arced toward its zenith, the tale's threads drew tighter, leading us to the guilds where ingenuity dwelled. For in such places, solutions were forged in quiet fires. The guilds of the modern age from the whispering pathways. Our chronicle turns to the guilds of the modern age, those brotherhoods of craftsmen where the spark of invention kindled like embers in a blacksmith's forge. In the Kingdom of America during the 1920s, these guilds were not the stone halls of medieval Europe, with their banners and oaths sworn by candlelight, but workshops and factories humming with the pulse of machinery. Yet, their spirit echoed the old ways. Artisans banding together, sharing secrets of trade, and forging tools to tame the world's caprices. In Cleveland, that bustling fiefdom by the lake, such guilds flourished amid the smoke of steel mills and the whir of sewing machines, drawing souls from far and wide to labor in harmony. Envision, dear slumberer, a typical guild holla, factory with brick walls, weathered by years of rain and soot, its windows grimy yet admitting shafts of light that danced upon workbenches. Here, men and women toiled from dawn's first light to dusk's embrace, their hands calloused from repetitive tasks. The air was filled with the rhythmic clack of looms, or the hiss of presses, sounds that lulled like a minstrel's lute played softly. Masters, like feudal lords, oversaw apprentices, teaching the arts of repair and creation. It was in these places that the plague of haste, that growing congestion upon the streets found its foes. For inventors, those quiet alchemists, pondered ways to bring order to the chaos. The automobile, that iron steed, had become the guild's great challenge. With numbers burgeoning to over 23 million by decade's end, these machines demanded new crafts. Mechanics to mend engines, smiths to shape fenders, and thinkers to devise safeguards. Traffic woes, like a creeping vine upon a castle wall, entangled the cities. In downtown realms, where merchant stalls lined the paths, vehicles clogged intersections, their horns bleating complaints. Pedestrians, weaving through, risked limb and life. For the binary signals of your mere stop and go offered, no pause for breath. Guilds responded with ingenuity, much as medieval masons built bridges over raging rivers. Within these modern guilds, racial barriers loomed like shadowed battlements. African American artisans, including our hero, Garrett Morgan, faced exclusion from many halls, yet formed their own, resilient as oak. Morgan, born in the year 80, his early days were humble, leaving school at 14 to seek fortune, much like a squire venturing from his lord's manor. In Cincinnati, he toiled as a handyman, hiring a tutor to glean knowledge from books, his mind a sponge absorbing the arts of mechanics. By 80, he opened his own shop in 1907, a modest forge where inventions took shape. Like guild masters of old, he employed kin and kind, building an empire of cloth and thread. His garment factory, launched in 1909, with 32 souls under employ, echoed the cooperative halls where apprentices learned under watchful eyes. Here, amid bolts of fabric and worry needles, ideas blossomed slowly, unhurried as the growth of grain in fields. The guilds tackled the haste with varied tools, early signals. From the 1860s in distant Lunana gaslit device, with arms for stop and caution, inspired American counterparts. By the 1910s, electric lanterns in Cleveland glowed red and green, but lacked the wisdom of pause, leading two tangles like knights clashing without heralds. Inventors, in their quiet alcoves, sketched remedies on parchment like paper, debating in low voices over tankards of ale or mugs of coffee. Morgan, rising in stature, co-founded the Cleveland Association of Colored Men in a guild of sorts for upliftment. Merging later with the NAACP, his newspaper, the Cleveland Call, founded in 19, served as a chronicle for the oppressed, its pages inked with tales of justice, amid personal life marriages to Maud Nelson and then Marianne Hassick. Birthing 3 sons, he balanced forge and hearth, his days a steady rhythm of creation. As the sun dipped low, casting golden hues upon the guild halls, the plague of haste persisted, whispering for a champion. The guilds, with their ceaseless toil, stood ready, forging paths to safety in the modern ages. Quiet fires, the guilds of the modern age from the whispering pathways. Our chronicle turns to the guilds of the modern age, those brotherhoods of craftsmen where the spark of invention kindled like embers in a blacksmith's forge. In the Kingdom of America during the 1920s, these guilds were not the stone halls of medieval Europe, with their banners and oaths sworn by candlelight, but workshops and factories humming with the pulse of machinery. Yet, their spirit echoed the old ways. Artisans banding together, sharing secrets of trade, and forging tools to tame the world's caprices. In Cleveland, that bustling fiefdom by the lake, such guilds flourished amid the smoke of steel mills and the whir of sewing machines, drawing souls from far and wide to labor in harmony. Envision, dear slumberer, a typical guild holla, factory with brick walls, weathered by years of rain and soot, its windows grimy yet admitting shafts of light that danced upon workbenches. Here, men and women toiled from dawn's first light to dusk's embrace, their hands calloused from repetitive tasks. The air was filled with the rhythmic clack of looms, or the hiss of presses, sounds that lulled like a minstrel's lute played softly. Masters, like feudal lords, oversaw apprentices, teaching the arts of repair and creation. It was in these places that the plague of haystack growing congestion upon the streets found its foes. For inventors, those quiet alchemists, pondered ways to bring order to the chaos. The automobile, that iron steed, had become the guild's great challenge. With numbers burgeoning to over 23 million by decade's end, these machines demanded new crafts. Mechanics demand engines, smiths to shape fenders, and thinkers to devise safeguards. Traffic woes, like a creeping vine upon a castle wall, entangled the cities in downtown realms where merchant stalls lined the paths. Vehicles clogged intersections, their horns bleeding complaints. Pedestrians, weaving through, risked limb and life. For the binary signals of your mere stop and go offered, no pause for breath. Guilds responded with ingenuity, much as medieval masons built bridges over raging rivers. Within these modern guilds, racial barriers loomed like shadowed battlements. African-American artisans, including our hero, Garrett Morgan, faced exclusion from many halls, yet formed their own, resilient as oak. Morgan, born in the year 80, his early days were humble, leaving school at 14 to seek fortune, much like a squire venturing from his lord's manor. In Cincinnati, he toiled as a handyman, hiring a tutor to glean knowledge from books, his mind a sponge absorbing the arts of mechanics. By 80, he opened his own shop in 1907, a modest forge where inventions took shape. Like guild masters of old, he employed kin and kind, building an empire of cloth and thread. His garment factory, launched in 1909, with 32 souls under employ, echoed the cooperative hulls where apprentices learned under watchful eyes. Here, amid bolts of fabric and worry needles, ideas blossomed slowly, unhurried as the growth of grain in fields. The guilds tackled the haste with varied tools. Early signals, from the 1860s, in distant Lund on a gaslit device, with arms for stop and caution-inspired American counterparts. By the 1910s, electric lanterns in Cleveland glowed red and green, but lacked the wisdom of pause, leading to tangles like knights clashing without heralds. Inventors, in their quiet alcoves, sketched remedies on parchment like paper, debating in low voices over tankards of ale or mugs of coffee. Morgan, rising in stature, co-founded the Cleveland Association of Colored Men in a guild of sorts for upliftment. Merging later with the NAACP, his newspaper, the Cleveland Call, founded in 19, served as a chronicle for the oppressed, its pages inked with tales of justice, amid personal life marriages to Maud Nelson and then Marianne Hassick. Birthing 3 sons, he balanced forge and hearth, his days a steady rhythm of creation. As the sun dipped low, casting golden hues upon the guild halls, the plague of haste persisted, whispering for a champion. The guilds, with their ceaseless toil, stood ready, forging paths to safety in the modern ages. Quiet fires, echoes from distant lands, early signals and such, as the guilds toiled in their ceaseless craft. Echoes from distant lands drifted across the seas, bearing tales of signals forged to tame the pathway's flow. In the far-off kingdom of London, in the year 1868, a sage named John Peaknight crafted a beacon of iron and flame, its arms pivoting like the banners of a herald to bid travelers halt or proceed. Picture it, gentle slumberer, standing at a crossing where horse-drawn carriages clattered over cobblestones, their drivers clad in woolen cloaks, and footfolk scurried with baskets of bread or cloth. The sentinel, lit by gas that flickered like a castle's hearth, raised its arms to cry halt in red and lowered them to beckon proceed in green, a simple code guiding the urban throng through fog and dusk. Yet this beacon was frail as a candle in a storm. One winter's night, its gas exploded, scattering shards across the stones like fallen stars. A tale of caution whispered by sailors to American shores. In Cleveland by the 1910s, new signals arose, electric now, their lamps glowing without the peril of flame. At corners where merchant stalls crowded the pads, these lanterns blinked red to still the flow and green to set it free, yet they lacked the wisdom of pause. Like a bard reciting only the start and end of a song, they offered no middle verse, leaving drivers to lurch forward. With haste their iron steeds, jostling carts and pedestrians in a tangle as old as knights clashing without heralds. Imagine such a crossing at twilight, when the sky donned a cloak of violet and the city's hum softened. A lamplighter, his pole slung over his shoulder, moved from post to post, though his craft waned as electric bulbs claimed the night. The signal's red glow cast shadows upon brick facades. Halting a streetcar as its bell clanged gently, while a boy on a bicycle paused, his basket heavy with newspapers. Across the way, a grocer swept his stoop, the broom's rhythm a quiet counterpoint to the putter of engines idling nearby. When the light turned green, the flow resumed, but without warning. Wheels scraped, and voices rose in mild protest. A horse shied, a driver muttered, and the delicate order frayed like a worn tapestry. These early signals, though earnest, were but echoes of a greater need. The automobiles, swelling to over 23 million by 1929, burdened the pathways, their horns a chorus of impatience. In Cleveland's downtown, where buildings loomed like baronial halls, intersections became knots of delay, with carts lingering to unload crates and cars waiting, their drivers tapping steering wheels in rhythms as steady as a heartbeat. Pedestrians, clutching parcels of sewing, thread, or apples, darted through gaps, their steps quick yet cautious, for no signal yet taught them to pause and breathe. The guilds, hearing these echoes, knew a wiser sentinel was needed, one that could guide with the clarity of a watchtower's flame. In this urban fiefdom, the tale of order remained unwritten, its pages blank as fresh parchment. The streets, alive with the scents of coal smoke, fresh tar, and flowers sold at corners carried on their eternal dance. Folk moved through their days, a seamstress threading her needle, a clerk tallying figures, a child chasing a hoop down an alley. The signals of yore, though valiant, stood as incomplete verses, their lights too abrupt for the swelling tide of machines. And so, as the moon rose over Cleveland's spires, casting silver upon the pathways, the stage was set for a new artisan to rise, one whose craft would weave a thread of safety through the urban tapestry. The shadow of Kalisha. Foretold hark now, as our chronicle drifts deeper into Cleveland's bustling realm, where the stone pathways bore the weight of progress and its quiet perils. In the 1920s, the urban kingdom pulsed with life, its arteries thronged with iron steeds, horse-drawn carts, and the ceaseless tread of folk pursuing daily quests. The air carried the scent of fresh asphalt, laid to smooth the ruts of older roads, mingled with the faint sweetness of apples sold at street corners. Yet, beneath this lively hum, a shadow loomed. The shadow of collision, foretold not in thunderous cataclysms, but in the slow accumulation of minor mishaps, like leaves piling in a forgotten courtyard. Picture a morning in this urban fiefdom, when the sun hung low, painting brick buildings with hues of gold. A baker, his apron dusted with flour, loaded loaves into a cart, his horse chewing oats patiently. Across the street, a newsstand opened, its keeper arranging papers with tailies of jazz and politics, while children skipped to school, their satchels bouncing. Automobiles, now numbering in the millions, rolled forth, their engines humming like distant minstrels. Each driver, intent on errands delivering goods, fetching a doctor, or visiting a market where cabbages gleamed in crates. Streetcars, lumbering on rails, clanged bells to part the crowds, carrying clerks in starched collars to offices. At the crossroads, where paths met like threads in a weaver's loom, the flow faltered. The signals of the 1910s, blinking red and green without pause, offered no moment to breathe. A streetcar might halt abruptly, its brakes squealing as a car swerved to avoid a pedestrian with a basket of laundry. Such moments wove a tapestry of gentle discord. A fender grazed, a wheel misaligned, a shout swallowed by the city's hum. By 1922, accidents grew, not in dramatic crashes but in predictable tangles, like threads snagging in a seamstress's work. The automobiles rise, from 6.5 million in 1919 to over thrice that number, turned intersections into mazes where delays piled like dust upon ancient tomes. Consider one such crossing, where a passing shower left puddles mirroring the sky. A grocer, his apron tied tight, pushed a cart of vegetables, pausing as an automobile honked, its driver patient yet eager. A woman in a cloche hat crossed with a parcel of thread, her steps measured to avoid the whetstones. The signal blinked green, and all surged forward horse, car, and walk aroundly, to meet in a knot where a cart's wheel caught a curb, spilling apples that rolled like errant coins. No great harm ensued. Hands gathered the fruit, voices apologized, and the flow resumed. Yet, each such moment whispered of a need for order, a warden to still the chaos before it grew. The guilds, those modern halls of craft, heard these whispers. In their workshops, where blueprints unfurled like scrolls, artisans debated solutions as monks once debated scripture. The city, now home to over half the kingdom's folk, pulsed with energy, its streets as vital as rivers in a feudal land. Without a pause between stop and go, the pathways risked becoming mires of delay, where progress stalled like a cart in mud. The shadow of collision, though gentle, cast a pall, urging the rise of a new sentinel. And so, as the sun dipped, casting long shadows across Cleveland's streets, the stage was set for a craftsman to answer the call, his vision yet to unfold like a parchment under canvas. Threads of fortune, building an empire, hark, helpless slumberer. As our chronicle drifts into the heart of Cleveland, where Garrett Morgan, a humble artisan of boundless resolve, wove delicate threads of fortune into the bustling tapestry of an urban field. In the year 19-0-7, his journey, like that of a squire rising to knighthood, took root in a modest sewing machine repair shop, a bastion of craft amid the city's ceaseless hum. Picture, if you will. This sanctuary of labor, its brick walls, weathered by years of rain and soot, its wooden counters worn smooth by the touch of countless hands exchanging coin for mended machines. Morning light filtered through dusty windows, casting a golden glow upon shelves laden with spools of thread crimson, indigo, and golden yellow stacked, like treasures in a monastery's vault. Tools, their handles polished by use, glinted softly under the flicker of gas lamps, while the air carried the scent of machine oil, mingling with the faint aroma of leather drifting from a cobbler's shop across the cobblestone lane. Outside, the city stirred gently, as if awakening from a dream. Horse hooves clopped in a measured cadence. Vendors called softly the passers-by with baskets of apples or bolts of cloth, and factory whistles, like distant horns of a feudal keep, signaled the dawn of the day's labors. Garrett, born in 1877 in the pastoral shire of Paris, Kentucky, two freed slaves, Sidney and Elizabeth, had journeyed far from his humble beginnings. His early years, spent in fields under skies where the sun rose slowly, were marked by toilet-fetching water, tending livestock, and listening to tales by a hearth where embers glowed like stars. At 14, he left school, venturing to Cincinnati like a squire seeking fortune beyond his lord's manor, working as a handyman while hiring a tutor to glean knowledge from books, his mind a sponge absorbing the arts of mechanics. By 1885, Cleveland became his new realm, a city of iron and ambition where he found employ repairing sewing machines, those intricate devices that wove cloth as scribes wove words. In 1907, with savings earned through years of steady labor, he opened his own repair shop, a modest forge where broken machines were restored with the care of a jeweler, crafting a crown. Picture him at his workbench, his fingers deft as a weaver's, adjusting a needle's tension as a streetcar rumbled past, its bell tolling like vespers in a distant chapel. The shop, lit by gas lamps flickering like candles, was a haven where ideas took root, its air heavy with the scent of oil and the quiet clink of tools. By 19-0-9, Garrett's vision grew, as a guild master of old might expand his hall to welcome more apprentices under his banner. With his second wife, Mary Ann Hassick, a woman of Czech descent, whose calm presence anchored his dreams like a keystone in an arch, he founded Morgan's cut-rate ladies' clothing store. This venture, akin to a medieval market stall blossoming into a grand emporium, employed 32 souls, their needles humming in a soothing rhythm as they crafted dresses and coats for Cleveland's bustling populace. The shop, nestled among brick buildings where laundry hung like heraldic banners fluttering in the breeze, buzzed with quiet activity. Seamstresses, their fingers nimble as they measured bolts of fabric wool and cotton in earthy tones of brown and green, worked in rows, their scissors snipping in a cadence as gentle as a lullaby. Clerks, with ledgers open like ancient tomes, tallied sales under the watchful eye of Garrett, who moved among them with a quiet nod, his mind ever turning like a mill wheel grinding grain into flour. The wooden floors creaked softly underfoot, and the air held the faint perfume of lavender sachets tucked among the garments, a reminder of the care woven into each stitch. His inventions, though small in form, were mighty in their quiet triumphs, like embers glowing in a blacksmith's forge. A belt fastener, crafted with the precision of a locksmith, shaping a key for a lord's treasury, simplified the work of tailors, its design as practical as it was ingenious. Another creation, a zigzag stitching attachment for sewing machines, was intricate as a scribe's illuminated manuscript, its delicate mechanism allowing patterns to flow across fabric like rivers across a map. These devices, born in the quiet hours of his workshop, spread through the guilds of the land, their utility whispered among craftsmen in low voices over mugs of coffee or tankards of ale. Each invention added to Garrett's wealth, not in heaps of gold, but in steady streams, like a river carving its path through stone, enabling him to dream beyond the confines of his shop. By 1920, this prosperity bore fruit in the founding of the Cleveland Call, a newspaper that served as a chronicle for the African-American community, its presses clattering through the night like the heartbeat of a sleeping village. Like a bard standing in a village square, reciting tales of valor to attentive ears, the cool spoke truth often silenced its pages inked with stories of resilience, hope, and the quiet strength of a people forging their place in a divided realm. Imagine Garrett pausing in his shop, his hands resting on a sewing machine as he adjusted its tension. The faint chime of a streetcar's bell drifting through the open window, its sound blending with the hum of the city outside. The pathways swelled with life. A milkman delivered bottles their glass, catching the sunlight like jewels scattered across a velvet cloth. A boy sold apples from a wooden crate, his voice a soft chant weaving through the clamor. And automobiles, their numbers growing like wildflowers in a field, wove through the throng, their drivers navigating with care, clad in dusters to ward off the dust of unpaved roads. The city's pulse quickened, yet Garrett's world remained a haven of steady routine repairing machines, sketching inventions, and dreaming alongside Mary and their 3 sons, Joan Pierpont, Garrett Augustus Jr., and Cosmo Hamlin, whose laughter filled their home like music from a minstrel's lute. Evenings in their household unfolded with the soft crackle of a radio playing hymns, or the rustle of book pages turned by lamplight. The family gathered over bowls of hearty soup, their voices low and soothing as they spoke of the day's labors or dreams for the morrow. Racial barriers, like the towering walls of a castle barring entry to outsiders, loomed large in this urban fiefdom, yet Garrett navigated them with the resolve of a knight on a quest. His shop and garment factory stood as beacons, drawing kin and kind to his side, offering work and refuge in a world that often turned them away. In 1908, he co-founded the Cleveland Association of Colored Men, a guild of sorts dedicated to upliftment, which later merged with the NAACP, where he served as treasurer, his ledgers kept with the meticulous care of a monk copying sacred texts. His farm in Wakeman, Ohio, purchased to create a country club for black patrons, stretched wide under open skies, its fields a haven as open and inviting as the pages of a book yet to be written. This sanctuary, where families gathered to picnic and share stories under the shade of ancient oaks, was a testament to his vision, a place where the burdens of prejudice could be set aside, if only for a day. The city outside, its streets alive with the clatter of wheels and the hum of progress, bore the weight of a growing chaos. Automobiles, their numbers swelling to over 20 million by the decade's end, tangled at intersections, their horns bleeding a chorus of impatience that echoed through the urban arteries. Picture a crossing at midday, where a grocer's cart, laden with cabbages and carrots, paused beside an automobile. Its driver adjusting his goggles with a patient hand. Pedestrians, clutching parcels of bread or sewing thread, darted through gaps, their steps cautious yet hurried, for the signals of the 1910s blinking red and green with no pause for it, no moment of calm. Garrett, driving his own car through these crowded lanes, his hands steady on the wheel, saw the need for order, his mind turning like a mill wheel, grinding grain into flour. His days, filled with the quiet rhythms of shop and home, were a testament to perseverance, each task a step toward a legacy yet to unfold. As the sun dipped low, casting golden hues across Cleveland's brick-lined streets, Garrett S.A. Hompia grew, not in grandeur, but in quiet impact, like a river carving its path through stone. The pathways, now choked with the clamor of iron steeds, whispered of a growing need for a sentinel to bring order, their intersections tangled like threads in a weaver's loom. In the quiet of his workshop, amid the clink of tools and the rustle of fabric, Garrett's heart remained open to this call, his inventions and enterprises a foundation for the greater work to come. The city, its lights flickering to life like candles in a chapel, seemed to pause in anticipation, its pulse a gentle hum beneath the stars. And so, as the night deepened, the chronicle of Garrett's rise moved forward, his dreams poised to answer the pathways. Silent plea, a craftsman's visioned, ready to weave safety into the urban tapestry, with a calm precision of a watchtower's flame. Threads of fortune, building an empire. And so, the chronicle of Garrett Augustus Morgan, our humble artisan, continues to unfold as his hands, guided by the steady rhythm of toil, wove delicate threads of fortune into the vibrant tapestry of Cleveland's urban realm. In the year 19-0-7, his sewing machine repair shop stood as a modest bastion amid the clamor of the city, its wooden counters polished smooth by the touch of countless hands exchanging coin and craft. Picture, dear, slumbra, The scene bathed in the soft glow of morning light filtering through dusty windows, casting gentle shadows upon shelves laden with spools of thread in every hoop, indigo and golden yellow stacked, like treasures in a monastery's vault. Tools, their handles worn from use, glinted like sacred relics under the flicker of gas lamps, while the air carried the faint scent of machine oil, mingling with the earthy aroma of leather wafting from a cobbler's shop across the cobblestone lane. Outside, the city stirred slowly, as if awakening from a dream. Horse hooves clopped in a measured cadence. Vendors' voices rose in a soft chorus, offering apples and cloth, and factory whistles, like distant horns of a feudal keep, signaled the dawn of the day's labors. By the year 19-0-9, Garrett's vision had grown. Much as a guildmaster of old might expand his hall to welcome more apprentices under his banner, with his second wife, Marianne Hussick, a woman of Czech descent whose calm presence anchored his ambitions like a keystone in an arch, he founded Morgan's cut-rate ladies' clothing store. These venture akin to a medieval market stall blossoming into a grand emporium, employed 32 souls, their needles humming in a soothing rhythm as they crafted dresses and coats for Cleveland's bustling populace. The shop, nestled among brick buildings where laundry hung like heraldic banners fluttering in the breeze, buzzed with quiet activity. Seamstresses, their fingers nimble as weavers at a loom, measured bolts of fabric, wool, and cotton in earthy tones, while scissors snipped in a cadence as gentle as a lullaby. Clerks, with ledgers open like ancient tomes, tallied sales under the watchful eye of Garrett, who moved among them with a quiet nod, his mind ever turning like a mill wheel grinding grain into flour. The shop's wooden floors creaked softly underfoot, and the air held the faint perfume of lavender sachets tucked among the garments, a reminder of the care woven into each stitch. Garrett's inventions, though small in form, were mighty in impact, adding golden threads to his growing fortune. A belt fastener, crafted with the precision of a locksmith shaping a key for a lord's treasury, and a zigzag stitching attachment, as intricate as a scribe's illuminated manuscript, found favor among tailors far beyond Cleveland's borders. These devices, born in the quiet hours of his workshop, spread through the guilds of the land, their utility whispered in the low voices of craftsmen over mugs of coffee or tankards of ale. By 1920, Garrett's prosperity allowed him to found the Cleveland Call, a newspaper that served as a chronicle for the African-American community, its presses clattering through the night like the heartbeat of a sleeping village, like a bard standing in a village square reciting tales of valor to a ten of ears. The Call spoke truths, often silenced, its pages inked with stories of resilience, hope, and the quiet strength of a people forging their place in a divided realm. Imagine Garrett pausing in his shop, his hands resting on a sewing machine as he adjusted its tension, the faint chime of a streetcar's bell drifting through the open window, tolling like vespers in a distant chapel. Outside, the pathway swelled with the rhythm of life. A milkman delivered bottles, their glass catching the sunlight like jewels. A boy sold apples from a wooden crate, his voice a soft chant blending with the hum of the city. And automobiles, their numbers growing like wildflowers in a field, wove through the throng, their drivers navigating with care, clad in dusters to ward off the dust of unpaved roads. The city's pulse quickened. Yet Garrett's world remained a haven of steady routine repairing machines, sketching inventions, and dreaming alongside Mary and their 3 sons, John Pierpont, Garrett Augustus Jr., and Cosmo Hamlin, whose laughter filled their home like music from a minstrel's lute. Racial barriers, like the towering walls of a castle barring entry to outsiders, loomed large in this urban fiefdom. Yet Garrett navigated them with the resolve of a knight on a quest. His shop and newspaper stood as beacons, drawing kin and kind to his side, offering work and refuge in a world that often turned them away. In 1908, he co-founded the Cleveland Association of Colored Men, a guild of sorts dedicated to upliftment, which later merged with the NIACP, where he served as treasurer, his ledgers kept with the meticulous care of a monk copying sacred texts. His farm in Wakeman, Ohio, purchased to create a country club for black patrons, stretched wide under open skies, its fields a haven as open and inviting as the pages of a book yet to be written. This sanctuary, where families gathered to picnic and share stories, was a testament to his vision, a place where the burdens of prejudice could be set aside, if only for a day. As the sun dipped low, casting golden hues across Cleveland's brick-lined streets, Garrett's empire grew, not in grandeur, but in quiet impact. Like a river carving its path through stone, the pathways outside his shop, now choked with the clamor of over 20 million automobiles, whispered of a growing chaos, their intersections tangled like threads in a weaver's loom. In the quiet of his workshop, amid the clink of tools and the rustle of fabric, Garrett's mind turned, sensing the need for a new craft sentinel to bring order to the urban flow, much as a watchtower guides travelers through a darkened vale. His days, filled with the steady rhythm of creation, were a tapestry woven with care, each thread a step toward a legacy yet to unfold. And so, as the city settled into twilight, its lamps flickering like stars, the chronicle moved forward, the artisan's dreams poised to answer the pathway's silent call. The veil of adversity lifted. Hark now, gentle slumberer, as our tale lingers in the heart of Cleveland, where Garrett Morgan walked paths shadowed by adversity yet illuminated by a resolve as steadfast as a pilgrim's faith. In the 1920s, this urban kingdom was a tapestry woven with contrasts, its streets pulsing with the vibrant hum of progress, yet marred by the divisions of prejudice, like a medieval fiefdom, split by moats and feuds. Cleveland's brick-lined avenues, alive with the clatter of horse hooves and the putter of automobile engines, bore the weight of racial barriers that barred African-American folk, including our artisan hero, from many of the city's halls. Yet, like a scribe whose quill persists through time, Garrett lifted the veil of adversity with deeds both humble and grand. His life a quiet rebellion against the constraints of his era, his steps guided by a vision as clear as a star in a winter sky. Picture his world, a bustling realm where the sun rose over tenements, their windows flickering with the glow of kerosene lamps in the early dawn. TA's sighed they haven for the growing African-American community, thrummed with life, its streets a mosaic of sound and scent. Churches rang their bells for morning services, their hymns rising like incense to mingle with the coal smoke drifting from factory chimneys. Barbershops, their doors open to the morning air, buzzed with talk of news and dreams, while children scampered through alleys, their laughter a bright thread woven into the city's hum, mingling with the clanging bells of streetcars, lumbering along iron rails. Garrett's repair shop and garment factory stood as pillars in this enclave, their doors open to kin-seeking work and refuge, their walls echoing with the soft whir of sewing machines and the rustle of fabric. Mary, his steadfast wife, moved among the seams, her presence a thread binding the enterprise, her quiet encouragement as vital as the hearth in their home. Their sons Jan Pierpont, Garrett Augustus Jr., and Cosma Hamlin learned the arts of cloth and machine, their hands guided by their father's example, much as apprentices learned under a master smith in a medieval guild. Garrett's earlier triumph, the smoke who'd patented in 1914, had marked him as a craftsman of rare note, a beacon in the annals of invention. This device, a marvel of canvas and tubes, allowed breath in smoke-filled realms, as vital to fire brigades as a knight's armor in battle. In 1916, it proved its worth in the Cleveland Waterworks tunnel explosion, saving lives trapped in a choking darkness, its utility celebrated in newspapers like the Cleveland Call. Yet, when southern cities learned its maker was black, orders faltered, their rejection a sting as sharp as winter's frost upon bare hands. Undeterred, Garrett founded the National Safety Device Company, marketing his hood to fire brigades and factories across the land, his resolve as unyielding as a castle's foundation stone. This triumph, though marred by prejudice, swelled his coffers, enabling the purchase of the Wakeman Farm, a sanctuary where black patrons could gather under open skies. Their laughter and stories a respite from the city's weight, like pilgrims resting at a wayside shrine. His civic deeds wove further threads of influence into the urban tapestry. The Cleveland Call, his newspaper founded in 19, printed tales of justice and community, its pages carried through the streets by boys whose shouts echoed like heralds' cries. In 19-0-8, Garrett co-founded the Cleveland Association of Colored Men, a guild dedicated to upliftment, which later merged with the NAACP, where he served as treasurer. balancing accounts with the care of a monk copying sacred scriptures. His home, shared with Mary and their sons, was a hearth of warmth, where evenings unfolded with the soft crackle of a radio playing hymns, or the rustle of book pages turned by lamplight. The family gathered over bowls of hearty soup, their voices low and soothing as they spoke of the day's labors or dreams for the morrow. Yet, adversity lingered like a shadow cast by towering battlements. In 19-30-1, Garrett ran for Cleveland City Council, his heart set on serving the realm, but found votes scarce, like a bard whose tales are ignored by a distracted court. His faith, rooted in the Antioch Baptist Church and the Prince Hall Freemasons, guided him through these trials, a star leading a pilgrim through unknown lands. Outside, the pathways grew ever busier, their stones worn, smooth by the ceaseless tread of feet and wheels. Automobiles, their numbers swelling to over 23 million by the decade's end, tangled at crossings, their horns bleating a chorus of impatience that echoed through the city's arteries. Garrett, driving his own car through these crowded lanes, his hands steady on the wheel, saw the need for order, his mind turning like a mill wheel grinding grain into flour. The veil of adversity, though heavy as a winter cloak, could not dim his vision for a sentinel to guide the urban realm, a device to command the flow with the calm authority of a watchtower's flame. His days, filled with the quiet rhythms of shop and home, were a testament to perseverance, each task a step toward a legacy that would outlast the shadows of his time. And so, as the sun dipped below the horizon, casting a golden glow upon Cleveland's streets, the chronicle moved forward, the artisan's heart poised to answer the call of the pathway's growing chaos. The fateful witness, a clash in the crossroads, and so the chronicle shifts to a moment of quiet portent. In the year 19, when Garrett Morgan, our steadfast artisan, stood at a bustling Cleveland crossroad, witnessing a clash that would set the course for his greatest work. Picture, gentle slumberer, a busy intersection at midday where the sun hung high in a cloudless sky, its rays glinting off the polished fenders of automobiles and the sweat-dampened flanks of horses drawing carts laden with the day's wares. The air was thick with the dust kicked up by wheels, mingling with the faint sweetness of apples sold from a vendor's wooden crate, its slats weathered by years of use. The streets pulsed with the rhythm of life. A clerk in a straw hat hurried across with a parcel tucked under his arm, his steps quick but measured. A woman pushed a pram, its wheels creaking softly as she hummed to her child. A newsboy, skep askew, called out headlines from the Cleveland. Cleveland. Call his voice a bright note in the city's hum, blending with the putter of engines and the clop of hooves upon cobblestone. At this crossroad, where paths converged like the spokes of a great wheel, a signal electric lantern of the 1910s blinked its stark command. Red to halt, green to proceed, with no pause between. A horse-drawn carriage, its bed piled high with barrels of flour, creaked forward as the light turned green. Its driver, a man in a worn cap, clucking softly to urge his steed onward. From another path came an automobile, its engine roaring as it surged to meet the green glow, its driver clad in goggles and a duster, his hands gripping the wooden steering wheel. In a moment, slow yet inevitable as the turning of seasons, the two met in a clash not of thunderous destruction but of grinding wood and bending metal. Barrels rolled across the stones like fallen stones from a toppled wall. The horse snorted in alarm, and the car's fender crumpled its driver, stepping out to survey the damage with a heavy sigh, his breath visible in the crisp autumn air. No lives were lost, no blood spilled upon the cobblestones, yet the scene etched itself upon Garrett's mind, like a scribe noting a portent in a chronicle's margin. The crowd gathered, not in frenzy but in quiet concern, their hands working to right the barrels and calm the horse, whose snorts filled the air like a distant trumpet. A policeman, his badge gleaming under the sun, arrived to direct the flow, his arms waving like a herald's flags, signaling order in a tourney, but his presence was fleeting and the signal's flaw remained a lack of pause, a missing breath to clear the path before the next surge of movement. Garrett, standing perhaps on the corner with his coat buttoned against the breeze, his eyes keen as a falcon's, saw this absence as clearly as a scholar sees a gap in a manuscript. The city's pathways, choked with over 20 million automobiles by the decade's end, whispered of a growing chaos, their intersections a puzzle yearning for a solution. The accident, with its scattered barrels and shaken driver, was but one verse in a song of discord, a gentle warning of the tangles that plagued the urban realm. Pedestrians, clutching parcels of bread or sewing thread, darted through gaps, their steps cautious yet hurried, for the signals offered no moment of calm. Streetcars, their bells clanging, jostled alongside carts and cars, the drivers exchanging nods or sharp words as they navigated the crowded lanes. Garrett, who drove his own automobile through these streets, knew their rhythm, the pauses at crossings, the honks of impatience, the slow dance of progress and delay. The memory of the clash lingered, its sounds breaks screeching, wood clattering, voices murmuring, echoing in his mind like a distant bell tolling in a quiet valley. As evening fell, Garrett retreated to his workshop, the city's lights flickering to life like candles in a chapel. The air within was heavy with the scent of oil and sawdust, the benches strewn with tools and sketches, a sanctuary where ideas took root. He sat, perhaps with a mug of coffee steaming beside him, his hands idle for a moment, as he reflected on the crossroads chaos. The scene replayed in his mind's eye, the horse rearing, the barrels rolling, the crowd's quiet efforts to restore order. He envisioned a sentinel, not unlike the watchtowers of old, that signaled safety to weary travelers. A device to command pause and proceed with equal grace, its form as simple yet profound as a monk's prayer. His sons, lingering nearby, might have spoken softly of their day, their voices a gentle hum, while Mary, ever present, moved through the workshop, her steps a reminder of the hearth awaiting at home. The city outside, its pathways alive with the last travelers of the day, a milkman finishing his rounds. A vendor packing his cart seemed to whisper for a solution, its intersections yearning for a guardian to still their chaos. And so, as the stars emerged above Cleveland, their light soft upon the rooftops, the spark of inspiration took hold in Garrett's heart, like a seed planted in fertile soil. The chronicle of his life, woven with the threads of perseverance and ingenuity, moved toward a new chapter, one where his vision would forge a path through the urban maze. The clash at the crossroads, though humble, was a call to action, urging the artisan to craft a sentinel that would guide the city's flow with the calm authority of a beacon in the night. The workshop, bathed in the glow of gas lamps, stood ready, its tools and sketches a canvas for the invention yet to come. As the city settled into slumber, its dreams of order carried on the wings of this quiet moment. Forging the sentinel, conception, in the workshop from the fateful witness of the crossroads clash, Garrett Morgan retreated to his workshop, a sanctuary where the seeds of invention sprouted like seedlings in a spring meadow. Picture this haven-dear slumberer nestled in the heart of Cleveland's east side, its brick walls weathered by years of rain and soot, its windows emitting shafts of golden light from gas lamps that flickered like candles in a scribe's study. The air was heavy with the scent of machine oil and sawdust, quite counterpoint to the city's hum beyond the walls where the clop of horse hooves and the hum of automobile engines faded into a hush, as night draped the urban realm in a velvet cloak. Benches, worn smooth by years of use, were strewn with tools, wrenches polished to a dull gleam, pliers resting beside piles of screws, gears arranged like relics awaiting a monk's careful touch. Sketches, drawn on parchment-like paper, lay scattered, their lines tracing the outlines of dreams yet to take form. Garrett's mind, ever turning like a mill wheel, grinding grain into flour, churned the memory of the 1922 collision into a vision of order. He sought a sentinel, not of stone or flame like the beacons of ancient kingdoms, but of iron and ingenuity, its form as steadfast as a tourney standard raised before a gathered crowd. Seated at his bench, surrounded by spools of thread from his sewing machine days, he sketched with a pencil worn short from use, his hands moving with the deliberate grace of a monk. Inscribing a sacred manuscript, the device, he envisioned, would stand tall at the city's crossings, its base rooted like an ancient oak in a forest glade, housing a crank to be turned by a traffic warden. Much as a gatekeeper might raise a castle's drawbridge to admit or bar passage, the sentinel's form would be T-shaped, its pivoted arms box-like, and hollow bearing the sacred words stop and go, their movements guided by gears and racks. intricate yet unassuming as the mechanisms of a cathedral clock tolling the hours. The conception unfolded slowly, as ideas do in the quiet hours when the world rests. The crank, turned with the steady rhythm of a miller at his wheel, would engage a rack and pinion, raising the arms to a vertical pose, commanding all directions to halt in a moment of sacred pause. This all-stopped phase, a breath between the chaos of movement, was the heart of his vision, a moment of calm to prevent the tangles that plagued the pathways. The unit would then revolve 90 degrees through an annular gear, like a castle turret, pivoting to face a new horizon. Before the arms lowered, their descent softened by a dash-pata cylinder of air, cushioning their fall, ensuring no jarring haste disrupted the flow. In their horizontal pose, the arms would signal go to one path, while stop faced another. Their words a clear decree to drivers, pedestrians, and cartmen alike. Garrett tested these ideas in his mind's eye, picturing the gears meshing with the precision of a clockmaker's art, the arms pivoting like a dancer's steps in a courtly ritual. He imagined the sentinel at a busy crossing, where a grocer's cart, laden with cabbages, waited beside an automobile, its driver adjusting his goggles with a patient hand. Pedestrians, clutching parcels of bread or cloth, would cross during the all-stop moment, their steps unhurried as a child, paused to watch the arms rise and fall, mesmerized by their gentle dance. Outside his workshop, the city carried on its evening rhythm. A milkman's horse plodded past, its hooves a steady beat. A newsboy's cry faded into the dusk, his papers tucked under his arm, and automobiles, their headlights cutting through the gathering gloom, paused at signals that offered no such pause, their drivers yearning for order. In the workshop, the air was alive with the faint clink of tools and the rustle of paper, a sanctuary where Garrett's sons, John Garrett Jr. and Cosma, might linger, handing him a wrench or a screw, their voices low as they spoke of school or chores. Mary, ever the anchor, brought a mug of coffee, its steam curling like mist over a moat, her presence a reminder of the hearth that awaited at home. The city's pulse, though quickening with the rise of automobiles, over 20 million by the decade S, and seemed to slow within these walls, where time moved with the deliberate pace of a craftsman's hands. Garrett, his eyes tracing the sketches before him, envisioned the crank turning, the gears whispering secrets, the arms rising and falling in a ritual as old as the tides. The dashpot's cushion, the annular gears turn, the rack and pinions meshing, all came together in his mind. A symphony of mechanics, as soothing as a bard's lullaby, as the lamps dimmed and the stars wheeled above Cleveland's rooftops, their light soft upon the slate tiles. Garrett's vision took form, a humble yet profound answer to the pathway's call. The workshop, bathed in the glow of his labor, stood as a forge where dreams were shaped, its tools and sketches a canvas for the sentinel yet to come. The city outside, its intersections tangled with the haste of progress, whispered for this guardian, its streets yearning for the order it would bring. And so, as the night deepened, the chronicle of Garrett's invention moved forward, the artisan's heart alight with the spark of creation, ready to weave safety into the urban tapestry with the calm precision of a watchtower's flame. The mechanism's gentle dance, with the sentinel, conceived in the quiet of his workshop, Garrett Morgan set to forging its form, crafting a mechanism whose gentle dance would tame the urban chaos with the grace of a minstrel's ballad. Picture him, dear slumberer, seated at his workbench, surrounded by the tools of his trade, a hammer resting beside a pile of screws, their heads glinting like coins in a merchant's purse, a wrench polished to a soft sheen, lying atop a scattering of gears, and sketches spread like ancient scrolls, their lines tracing the outlines of a device yet to be born. The air within the workshop was heavy with the scent of polished wood and the faint temps of metal, a soothing counterpoint to the city's hum beyond the brick walls, where Cleveland's streets settled into the hush of night, broken only by the occasional clatter of a late cart or the hum of a lone automobile returning from an evening errand. The Sentinel, this T-shaped guardian, was designed to move with the deliberate rhythm of a medieval ritual, its mechanics as harmonious as the turning of seasons in a feudal feast. At its heart lay a crank, to be turned by a traffic warden standing at the crossroad, much as a miller turns a wheel to grind grain into flour. This crank, connected to a shaft within the pole's hollow base, engaged a rack and pinion, their gears meshing with the quiet precision of a clock's innards. raising the box-like arms, each bearing the sacred words "stop" and "go" to a vertical pose, commanding all directions to halt in a moment of sacred pause. This old stop phase, the soul of Garrett's invention, allowed the crossroads to breathe, a moment of calm to prevent the tangles that plagued the pathways. The unit then revolved 90 degrees through an annular gear, like a castle turret pivoting to face a new horizon before the arms lowered, their descent softened by a dashpata, a cylinder of air that cushioned their fall, ensuring no jarring haste disrupted the flow. In their horizontal pose, the arms signaled "go" to one path, while "stop" faced another, their words a clear decree to drivers, pedestrians, and cartmen alike, guiding the urban flow with the authority of a herald's proclamation. The dance was unhurried, each turn and shift a ritual as soothing as the tides lapping against a shore. Imagine the warden at his post, his hands steady on the crank, turning it with the care of a scribe dipping a quill into ink. The gears whispered secrets, their teeth meshing in a soft rhythm as the arms rose, paused in their all-stop moment, and then fell, their motion as graceful as a dancer's steps in a courtly pavan. At a busy crossing where a grocer's cart laden with cabbages and carrots waited beside an automobile, its driver adjusting his cap with a patient hand, the all-stop phase allowed pedestrians to cross their steps unhurried as a child, paused to watch the arms mesmerized by their gentle sway. A bell, wired to a circuit controller, chimed softly with each change, its sound as delicate as a church bell, calling the faithful to vespers in a distant village. Garrett, in his workshop, crafted a model of this sentinel, perhaps from wood and wire, its parts clicking in harmony as he tested the crank's turn, the gears meshing. The dashpot's cushion, the air was alive with the faint clink of tools and the rustle of paper, a sanctuary where his sons, John Garrett Jr. and Cosma, might linger, handing him a screw or a wrench there, voices low as they spoke of school or the day's small adventures. Mary, ever Dianka, moved through the workshop, her steps soft as she ensured order among the benches, perhaps bringing a mug of coffee, its steam curling like mist over a moat. Outside, the city's rhythm slowed. A milkman's horse plodded past, its hooves a steady beat. A newsboy's cry faded, his papers tucked under his arm, and automobiles, their headlights cutting through the dusk, paused at signals that offered no pause, their drivers yearning for the order Garrett's sentinel would bring. The workshop, bathed in the glow of gas lamps, stood as a forge where dreams were shaped, its tools and sketches a canvas for the invention taking form. Garrett's mind, ever active, envisioned the sentinel at work, the crank turning, the arms rising and falling, the bell chiming softly as pedestrians crossed, their parcels swaying like pendulums, the city's pulse quickening with the rise of automobiles. Over 23 million by 1920. Night seemed to slow within these walls, where time moved with the deliberate pace of a craftsman's hands. The mechanisms danced, with its rack and pinion, annular gear, and dashpot, was a symphony of mechanics as soothing as a bard's lullaby, each part working in harmony to guide the urban flow. The streets, outside, their intersections tangled with the haste of progress, whispered for this guardian, their stones worn smooth by the ceaseless tread of feet and wheels. As the night deepened, the stars wheeling above Cleveland's rooftops, their light soft upon the slate tiles, the sentinel's form grew clearer in Garrett's mind. The workshop, a haven of quiet creation, echoed with the memory of countless nights spent sketching and testing, each moment a step toward a legacy that would outlast the artisan himself. The city, its pathways alive with the last travelers of the day, a vendor packing his cart, a worker trudging home seemed to pause in anticipation, its intersections yearning for the order this sentinel would bring. And so as the lamps dimmed and the chronicle of Garrett's invention moved forward, the mechanism's gentle dance took shape, ready to guide the urban realm with the calm precision of a watchtower's flame, its rhythm a lullaby for the sleeping city. Illuminations for the night watch as the sentinel's form solidified in the forge of Garrett Morgan's workshop. His mind turned to its duties in the hours of darkness, when Cleveland slumbered under a canopy of stars, its streets cloaked in the quiet of night. Picture gentle slumber, the workshop bathed in the soft glow of gas lamps, their light casting shadows that danced upon brick walls weathered by years of rain and soot. Tools, wrenches, pliers, Screws lay scattered across benches, glinting like relics in a scribe's study, while the air held the faint scent of oil, mingling with the earthy aroma of sawdust and the distant perfume of flowers from a vendor's cart left untended in the street. Outside, the city's pulse slowed, its pathways hushed, save for the occasional clatter of a late cart, its wheels creaking over cobblestones, or the hum of a lone automobile, its headlights cutting through the gathering gloom like beacons in a fog-shrouded bailiff. Sentinel, this T-shaped guardian of the crossroads, was crafted to speak not only in form but in light, its signals piercing the darkness with the clarity of a watchtower's flame guiding travelers home. Within its vertical pole and pivoted arms, electric lamps were housed, their glow as steady as candles in a chapel's sanctuary. When the arms stood upright, commanding all directions to halt, the word "stop" shone red through openings, a warning as stern yet gentle as a monk's, admonition to a wayward soul. When lowered, go glowed green, beckoning drivers forward with the promise of safe passage, its light a beacon in the night's embrace. These lamps, wired to a circuit controller hidden within the pole's base, ensured clarity even when fog draped the city like a cloak, obscuring the moon's silver light and turning street lamps into faint halos. For the night watch, Garrett added bells, their chimes as soft as a shepherd's call across a valley, wired to sound with each turn of the crank, alerting drivers and pedestrians alike to the sentinel's changing commands. In the lighter hours of dusk or dawn, when traffic thinned like a stream in summer, the arms could rest at half, a cautionary pose akin to a flickering torch signaling care to wayfarers. This half-mast setting, with its dim glow and muted chime, allowed passage with vigilance, a nod to the quiet rhythms of the night when the city's pulse slowed to a gentle murmur. Picture the sentinel at a crossing, its red glow halting a lone driver, his car's headlights dim as he waited, the bell's chime echoing softly through the cool air. Across the street, a pedestrian, perhaps a worker returning from a late shift, paused, his breath visible in the night's chill, his coat buttoned against the breeze as he clutched a lunch pail worn smooth by years of use. Garrett, in his workshop, refined these illuminations, testing the glow of bulbs under the lamplight, their light casting soft shadows across his sketches. He envisioned the sentinel at work, its lamps piercing the darkness, its bells chiming like distant church bells calling the faithful to rest. The crank, turned by a warden at his post, would set the arms in motion, their dance as deliberate as a courtly ritual, guiding the sparse travelers of the nightly milkman finishing his rounds, a newsboy trudging home, a lone car navigating the empty lanes. His sons, lingering in the workshop, might have handed him a length of wire or a screwdriver, their voices low as they spoke of the day's small events, their presence a quiet comfort. Mary Eva the anchor moved through the workshop, her steps soft as she ensured order among the benches. Perhaps pausing to adjust a lamp or sweep sawdust from the floor, her presence a reminder of the hearth that awaited at home. The city outside, its lights twinkling like stars reflected in a still lake, whispered for this sentinel, its intersections yearning for clarity in the dark. The pathways, though quieter in the night, still bore the weight of progress, their stones worn smooth by the ceaseless tread of feet and wheels. Automobiles, though fewer in the late hours, still navigated with care, their drivers peering through fog or rain, seeking guidance from signals that offered no pause. Garrett's mind, ever active, pictured the sentinel's lamps glowing through the mist, their red and green lights, a universal language like the flags of old, signaling safety to all who passed. The bells, with their gentle chime, would carry through the night, a sound as soothing as a lullaby, ensuring the warden's commands were heard even when visibility faded. The workshop, bathed in the glow of gas lamps, stood as a forge where these illuminations took shape, its tools and sketches a canvas for Garrett's vision. The city's pulse, though slowed in the night, remained a constant hum, its intersections a puzzle awaiting the sentinel's light. As the stars wheeled above Cleveland's rooftops, their light soft upon the slate tiles, the sentinel's design grew clearer, its lamps and bells ready to guard the urban realm through the hours of rest. The chronicle of Garrett's invention moved forward, each moment of creation a step toward a legacy that would outlast the artisan himself, a beacon of order in a world of growing haste. And so, as the night deepened, the workshop's quiet hum merged with the city's hush. the sentinels' illuminations poised to shine like stars in the urban night, guiding the pathways with a gentle, unwavering light. The patent's quiet decree. With the sentinel's form and illuminations complete, Garrett Morgan sought to inscribe his creation in the annals of the kingdom, securing its place with a patent. A secret decree, a milestone as solemn as a stone laid in a cathedral's foundation. On the 20th day of November, in the year 9, the United States Patent Office, like a council of elders in a medieval court, granted him patent number 1,475,024, a document as crisp as fresh parchment, its pages detailing the mechanism that would guide the urban flow with the calm authority of a watchtower's flame. Picture, dear slumberer, Garrett in his workshop, holding this decree, its ink black and precise, the air still, save for the faint hum of Cleveland beyond the brick wall streetcars clanging their bells, horses plodding over cobblestones, and vendors calling softly as they packed their carts for the day's end. The patent, a testament to his craft, described the sentinel in meticulous detail, as a scribe might chronicle a king's reign across the pages of a sacred tome. Its claims, like verses in a liturgical chant, outlined the T-shaped pole, its pivoted arms, and the crank that orchestrated their gentle dance. The first claim spoke of the combination, a standard housing the mechanism, a reliable support turning 90 degrees through an annular gear, and arms that rose to halt all directions in a moment of sacred pause before lowering to beckon one path forward. The rack and pinion, meshing with the precision of a clockmaker's art, raised the arms. The dashpot, a cylinder of air, cushioned their descent, ensuring no jarring haste disrupted the flow, and the lamps and bells, wired to a circuit controller, ensured clarity day and night, their red and green glow piercing the darkness, their chimes, soft as a shepherd's call, across a valley. Each component, from the crank's turn to the arm's pivot, was described with the care of a monk illuminating a manuscript, its purpose to guide the urban throng with simplicity and grace. In his workshop, Garrett traced the sketches accompanying the patent, his fingers steady as they followed the lines of gears and racks, each drawing a map of his vision. The air was heavy with the scent of oil and sawdust, the benches strewn with tools, wrenches, pliers, screws glinting like relics under the gas lamp's glow. His sons, John, Garrett Jr., and Cosmo, might have gathered near, their eyes tracing the document's words, their voices low as they spoke of its import, a quiet pride swelling in their hearts. Mary, ever the anchor, moved through the workshop, her step soft as she ensured order among the benches, perhaps pausing to read a line of the patent, her presence a reminder of the hearth that bound their family. The city outside, its pathways choked with the clamor of over 20 million automobiles, seemed to pause in anticipation, as if sensing the decree's weight. At a nearby crossing, a traffic warden, his coat dusted with the city's grime, waved his arms to direct a cart of vegetables and a car whose driver adjusted his goggles, unaware of the new sentinel poised to bring order. The patent's granting was no grand proclamation, no herald's trumpet echoing through the streets, but a quiet milestone, like a stone laid in the foundation of a cathedral yet to rise. Its words, inscribed in the annals of the Patent Office, carried the weight of Garrett's ingenuity, a testament to his years of toil in the face of adversity. The city's pulse, quickening with the rise of automobiles, whispered for this guardian, its intersections tangled like threads in a weaver's loom. Picture a crossing at dusk, where a streetcar, its bell clanging, paused beside a horse-drawn cart, its driver clucking softly to his steed. Pedestrians, clutching parcels of bread or sewing thread, crossed with care, their steps measured to avoid puddles left by a passing shower. The signal, one of the old electric lanterns, blinked red then green, offering no pause, its flaw a silent call for Garrett's sentinel to take its place. In the workshop, the air was alive with the faint clink of tools and the rustle of paper, a sanctuary where dreams were shaped. Garrett, his eyes tracing the patent's claims, envisioned the sentinel at work, the crank turning, the arms rising and falling, the lamps glowing through the night, the bells chiming softly as pedestrians crossed the city's streets, their stones worn smooth by the ceaseless tread of feet and wheels, yearned for this order, their intersections a puzzle awaiting the sentinel's gentle command. Outside, the sun climbed higher, casting light upon Cleveland's spires, their slate roofs gleaming like scales on a dragon's back. A milkman delivered bottles, their glass catching the sunlight. A newsboy called headlines, his voice fading into the city's hum. And automobiles, their drivers navigating with care, moved through lanes that begged for clarity. The patent, a quiet decree, stood as a milestone in Garrett's chronicle, its words a promise of safety woven into the urban tapestry. The workshop, bathed in the glow of gas lamps, echoed with the memory of countless nights spent sketching and testing, each moment a step toward a legacy that would outlast the artisan himself. His family, gathered in the quiet of the evening, shared this moment of triumph, their voices low as they spoke of the future, their hearth a haven of warmth amid the city's bustle. The sentinel, soon to be forged in iron and light, was poised to stand at crossings, its arms dancing to guide the flow, its lamps and bells a beacon in the night. And so, as the chronicle moved forward, the city's pathways awaited their guardian, their chaos ready to be tamed by the gentle rhythm of Garrett's invention, a watchtower's flame lighting the way through the urban maze. Echoes of change, signal evolutions with the patent's quiet decrees secured. The tale of Garrett Morgan's sentinel spread through the urban realm, its echoes rippling like a bard's song carried on the wind across a medieval kingdom. The traffic signal, born in the quiet of his workshop, was no solitary star, but part of a constellation of innovations evolving to meet the city's growing needs. Picture: gentle slumberer. Cleveland's streets in the 19th, their cobblestones giving way to smooth asphalt, their pathways alive with the clatter of wheels and the hum of progress. The air carried the scent of fresh tar, laid to ease the ruts of older roads, mingled with the faint perfume of flowers sold at corner stalls, where vendors called softly to passers-by, their voices a gentle chant in the city's rhythm. A milkman, his cart laden with bottles that clinked like coins, delivered his wares. A newsboy, his cap askew, shouted headlines from the Cleveland Call, and pedestrians clutching parcels of bread or cloth moved through the lanes, their steps measured to avoid puddles left by a morning shower. Garrett's sentinel, with its T-shaped form and pivoted arms, introduced a new verse to the song of traffic control. Its all-stop phase, a moment of calm that prevented the haste of earlier signals. Unlike the binary lanterns of the 1910s, which blinked red and green with no pause, or the gaslit beacon of a 1068 London, now a faded memory in the annals of invention, his device offered a caution-faisant all-stop moment that allowed the crossroads to breathe, much as a monk pauses to reflect before continuing a prayer. This innovation, simple yet profound, stood upon the shoulders of earlier signals, weaving their lessons into a new tapestry of order. The sentinel's arms, raised by a crank's turn, halted all directions, their words stop and go glowing through the night, their bells chiming softly to signal change, guiding the urban flow with the grace of a courtly dance. By the late 1920s, the sentinel's influence grew, its reach extending far beyond Cleveland's borders. Garrett sold its rights to General Electric for $40,000, a sum as weighty as a king's ransom, equivalent to over $700,000 in today, S-coin allowing the device to spread to cities across the land, like seeds carried by the wind to distant fields. In Cleveland at crossings where streetcars and automobiles once tangled, the sentinel stood tall, its arms rising and falling in a rhythm as steady as a heartbeat. Picture a crossing at midday, where a traffic warden, his coat dusted with the city's grime, turned the crank with care, halting a grocer's cart laden with cabbages and an automobile whose driver adjusted his goggles. Pedestrians, their parcels swaying, crossed during the all-stop phase, a child pausing to watch the arms' gentle dance, mesmerized by their motion. The bells chimed, their sound as soothing as a chapel's call, while the lamps glowed through evening mists, guiding the night's sparse travelers. A worker, trudging home, a vendor packing his cart. The evolution of signals continued, building on Garrett's design. By the 1930s, colored lights red, yellow, green became the standard, their hues, a universal language like the flags of old, signaling stop, caution, and go across the urban realm. The yellow light, a direct descendant of Garrett's all-stop phase, ensured a moment of pause, preventing the collisions that once marred the pathways. Yet, his Sentinel, with its mechanical simplicity, remained a cornerstone. Its crank and gears a testament to the artisan's ingenuity. In Cleveland, the streets flowed smoother. Their tangles eased like a river freed of debris. A milkman delivered bottles without fear of collision. A newsboy crossed with a skip, his papers tucked under his arm. And clerks, their briefcases swinging, moved through the city with newfound ease. The sentinels dance, guiding their steps. In his workshop, Garrett might have heard of these changes, his heart warmed by the knowledge that his sentinel had taken root, its echoes spreading through the urban veins. The city, with its over 23 million automobiles by 19, pulsed with life, its intersections no longer knots of delay but pathways of order. Picture him standing at a crossing, watching his sentinel at work, its arms rising to halt a streetcar, its lamps glowing through the dusk. The scene, bathed in the soft light of evening, was one of harmony. A horse plodded past, its driver tipping his hat. A woman carried a basket of laundry, pausing as the arms signaled stop, and the warden, his task steady, turned the crank with the care of a scribe dipping a quill. The city's lights, twinkling like stars, mirrored the sentinel's glow, a testament to Garrett's vision woven into the urban tapestry. The workshop, bathed in the glow of gas lamps, stood as a forge where this legacy was born, its tools and sketches a canvas for dreams that reshaped the realm. Garrett's sons, lingering nearby, might have spoken of the sentinel's spread, their voices low as they shared their father's pride. Mary, ever present, ensured order. Among the benches, her steps a quiet rhythm in the workshop's hum. The city's pulse, though quickened by progress, flowed smoother under the sentinel's watchful gaze, its intersections a puzzle solved by the artisan's craft. And so, as the sun set, casting golden hues upon Cleveland's spires, the echoes of change rippled outward. The sentinel's dance, a legacy enduring like a watchtower's flame, guiding the urban realm with a gentle, unwavering light. The sentinel's eternal vigilance, O dear slumberer, our chronicle draws to its gentle close as the sentinel crafted by Garrett Morgan takes its place. Among the eternal guardians of the urban realm, its vigil is steadfast as the stars above Cleveland's slate-roofed spires. In the 1920s and beyond, the city's streets, once tangled with the haste of automobiles and the clatter of carts, found harmony under the sentinel's watchful gaze, its arms dancing in a rhythm as soothing as a lullaby. Picture a crossing at dusk, when the sun dipped below the horizon, painting the sky with hues of violet and gold, its light fading like a candle snuffed in a chapel's quiet. The air carried the scent of fresh asphalt, laid to smooth the cobblestones, mingled with the faint perfume of flowers from a vendor's cart, left untended as the day waned. The sentinel stood tall, its T-shaped form, a guardian like the watchtowers of old, its lamps glowing red to halt a lone driver, his car's headlights dim as he waited the bell's chime echoing softly through the cool evening air. The sentinel's arms, raised by the warden's steady crank, commanded all directions to pause, their all-stop phase. A moment of calm that prevented the chaos of earlier signals. When lowered they, biconed, go to one path while stop faced another, their words illuminated by lamps that pierced the night's gloom, guiding pedestrianza worker trudging home with a lunch pail, a woman carrying a basket of bread with the clarity of a beacon in a storm. The bells, wired to a circuit controller, chimed with each change, their sound as gentle as a church bell, calling the faithful to vespers, a soothing note in the city's hush. Picture the scene. A streetcar, its bell clanging softly paused beside a horse-drawn cart, its driver clucking to his steed. A child clutching a parent's hand watched the arms dance, mesmerized by their motion. And the warden, his coat worn but proud, turned the crank with the care of a scribe dipping a quill, his task a ritual as old as the tides. Garrett's legacy, like a tale carved in stone, endured beyond his time. In Cleveland, his name graced a school, a water treatment plant, and in 1923, a fireboat, honors bestowed like knighthoods in a kingdom of old. Though glaucoma dimmed his sight by 1943, and he passed in 1963 at the age of 80. His sentinel lived on, its design woven into the colored lights of modern yellow, green that guide the urban realm today. The yellow light, a direct descendant of his all-stop phase, ensured a moment of pause, preventing the collisions that once marred the pathways. In Cleveland, the streets flowed smoother, their intersections no longer knots of delay but pathways of order, their stones worn smooth by the ceaseless tread of feet and wheels. Picture Garrett in his workshop, perhaps in the quiet of an evening, the gas lamps casting a golden glow upon his benches, their tools wrenches, pliers, screws glinting like relics in a scribe's study. His sons, now grown, might have lingered, their voices low as they spoke of the sentinel spread, their pride a quiet flame in their hearts. Mary, ever the anchor, moved through the workshop, her steps soft as she ensured order, perhaps pausing to read a letter from a distant city where the sentinel stood. The city outside, its lights, twinkling like stars, mirrored the sentinel's glow, a testament to Garrett's vision woven into the urban tapestry. A milkman delivered bottles, their glass catching the moonlight. And automobiles, their drivers navigating with care, move through lanes guided by the sentinel's gentle command. The sentinel's impact, though humble in its beginnings, reshaped the urban realm, its ripples spreading like a stone cast into a still pond. In Cleveland, accidents dwindled, not in dramatic absence, but in the quiet reduction of minor tangles. A fender sped, a barrel unspilled, a shout softened to a murmur. The city, now home to millions, carried Garrett's mark, its intersections safer, its flow steadier, like a river guided by ancient banks. Picture a crossing under a moonlit sky, the sentinel's red glow halting a lone driver, his breath visible in the night's chill. A pedestrian, perhaps a worker returning from a late shift, crossed with a lunch pail swinging, her steps echoing in the stillness. The warden, his task complete, watched the city sleep, its lights twinkling like stars in a tapestry, the sentinel's vigil a silent promise of safety. The workshop, where this legacy was born, stood as a forge of dreams, its tools and sketches a canvas for Garrett's ingenuity. The city's pulse, though quickened by progress, flowed smoother under the sentinel's gaze, its intersections a puzzle solved by the artisan's craft. As the stars wheeled above, their lights soft upon Cleveland's rooftops, the sentinel kept its vigil, its arms rising and falling in a dance as old as time. Garrett's vision, born in a workshop lit by lamplight, had woven order into chaos, its impact as enduring as a cathedral spire piercing the sky. And so, as the city dreamed its pathways, guided by the sentinel's gentle light, the chronicle closed, its words fading like the soft chime of a bell into the night. A lullaby for the sleeping realm, carrying the listener into the gentle embrace of slumber. And so, dear friends, our tale of Garrett Morgan's traffic light fades. Like a lantern dimming in Cleveland's quiet night, we hope this story has eased you toward sleep, its rhythm soft as a turning wheel. Thank you for joining us on the Go-To Sleep Historian. Please subscribe to hear more calming dailies. Like this video, if it soothed you, and share your thoughts in the comments. Like notes left in a village square, as the city dreams under starlit skies, let this story carry you gently into slumber. Good night.